Hello.
Hello.
Tom from Upside Down Shout Radio here, backstage at the booking hall in Dover, and quite unbelievably, joining me today is folk punk troubadour Frank Turner.
Hello.
Hi Frank, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Madly enough, I have been touring this country for a very, very long time, and I've played a gazillion shows here, but I've never played in Dover before.
What's your first impressions of Dover?
Well, this is the interesting thing he said. The thing is, I've been to Dover many times
really?
because, generally speaking, our tour buses, I'll lock up on our rehearsal and everything with the band is in Oxford, I live in London. So when we're doing a European tour, I tend to get the train to Dover Priory, and there's that pub opposite the train station.
Oh yeah.
And quite often I get in like half an hour before the bus or whatever, so I go and have a pint in there. So I know that pub, and then and the bus comes and picks me up, and we get on the ferry and we go to France or whatever. But it's kind of nice that we're actually sort of stopping in a place that we've travelled through so many times. I'm sure there's a lot of people who only ever travel through Dover.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice venue, the booking hall.
Yeah, it is. It's new, right?
Yeah, it's only been around for about a year or so, but they've got some great acts.
Well, my buddy Chris is helping out book shows here, and he and I go an extremely long way back. And he asked me if I'd be interested in coming and playing, and I said sure, because it means I get to hang out with him and be able to now tell my grandchildren that I've played at least one show in Dover in my life.
And that's three birds with one stone.
Exactly, look at that.
Cool. So, last year you released Songbook on the tail end on Extra Mile Records, the best record label. And it's
I agree strongly.
I mean, just the big R shirt, sorry, representing Ruben. It's a great hits with a difference because you've remastered a bunch of the classic tracks.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the decision of just not having a regular greatest hits?
I mean, I think, first of all, because I think a regular just collection of tracks on a record that you've already released is a little suspect. I mean, there was a bunch of reasons we did Songbook. One of which was that the Lost Evenings Festival, over the course of 4 nights, trying not to repeat songs I played, I think about 85 different songs that I've written, which is a lot of bloody songs. And, you know, and the thing is, I don't listen to my own records when I go home.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, that seems enormously self-involved to me. So, it was the first time in quite a while that I'd sort of thought about that many songs in one place at the same time. And it was kind of cool to actually be able to take a bit of an overview of what I do. And then the other thing is, I mean, it is a greatest hits to a degree. What makes me more comfortable about it is the fact that, like, when I was a kid, if the band released greatest hits with like one new song or whatever, you had to pay 20 quid to get that one new song. It was an obvious rip-off. In the world of Spotify and iTunes and all the rest of it, it doesn't really work like that in the same way. Do you know what I mean? People can pick and choose. And also, the other thing I should say about it is the box set part of it that we put together, I think is great. Dare I say so myself.
Absolutely.
I was genuinely like kind of blown away when I saw what they were doing with it. And it's like, you know, 2 DVDs, photo book, all these words, blah blah blah, music. So, you know, hopefully it's kind of a nice thing that people can get into, whether they're old fans, or indeed I think a big part of it was like, you know, if somebody's kind of new to what I do. I know what it feels like, sometimes it'd be quite daunting to get into a band and discover they've got 6 albums out already, and it's just like, oh my god, where do I start? So, people can start there.
Lovely. Lovely. So, moving forward to From the Past to the Future,
there's
a new album on the horizon.
I finished mixing it last night.
Amazing, amazing. And I've seen in previous interviews you've said that it's quite a radical departure from what you've done before.
I think so. Ultimately, I'm the wrong person to ask that question, because every time I work on a record, or indeed a song, it feels different to me because I'm the writer. And if it didn't feel different, if it felt like I was repeating myself, I would stop and keep doing something else until it didn't feel like that. You know, and it's, I mean, the thing I always think of is like when I started doing solo stuff, having been in Million Dead, I was just kind of like, there is no possible overlap between fan bases or between genre or musicality or whatever between these two things. And a fair chunk of people just went, oh yeah, it's still you singing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, weird. You know, because to me they couldn't have been any further removed. So I'm sure that it's probably not quite as radically different as it sounds, as it feels like to me. I mean, that said, there's a lot more kind of, there's a lot of influence from stuff like mid-80s Cure, Soft Cell, New Order. There's a lot of kind of beat-based stuff, a lot of synthesizers on there. I got very, very, very into heavy vocal production. Not in an enormously obvious way, but I just got really into kind of the way that, you know, people like New Order used to record their vocals and stuff like that. So there is a lot of kind of new ground being broken from my point of view. It's kind of up to everybody else to judge whether that makes it radically different or not.
So the Frank Turner Grime album is still a few years away?
It's a few years away,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
I did do a thing last year that it was just very, very strange. I went to Sierra Leone on a charity trip thing. We're trying to work out getting back there again. It was amazing, but like there's a group there called the Blackstreet Family who are former child soldiers who are now a kind of like gangster rap band. And they asked me to write a chorus for them, so they'd have a song where they rap and then I'd do the chorus. But I mean, seriously, what the f have I got to say to a bunch of people who grew up in a civil war,
Absolutely.
were forced into soldiery as children and have lived through things that I can't, in my entirely sort of bourgeois middle class Western existence, it's virtually impossible for me to conceive of anything they've been through. And they're like, yeah man, write a chorus, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that sounds daunting.
Yeah, it was quite daunting, and I'm not going to say that what I came up with was the greatest thing I've ever come up with ever, but it exists.
Well, moving on from quite a serious note
yes.
there. There's one question that if I could only ask one question on this whole interview, this is the one I wanted to frame around.
Okay, then I need to get a good answer.
At the end of last year, I was lucky enough to see Jamie Lemon, formerly of Reuben, if you're
yes.
not aware, at his acoustic show in London.
Yep.
And I had the chance to ask him about potential collaboration with you in future,
right.
because obviously Deadly Lethal Ninja Assassin and all sorts
yeah.
of YouTube back and forth between the two of you
yep.
over the years. He said he'd be up for it, but that you're a hard man to catch. And also that apparently his mum still has all your CDs in her car and race car in the footwell.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So take that where you will. But I pose the same question to you. How would you feel about the glorious reunion of Turner and Lennon?
I feel great about it. I mean, James is one of those people who I've known for a long time, and I don't know if you have friends like this in your life, but every time we see each other we go, my God, why don't we hang out more often? Like,
Absolutely.
He's such a nice dude. He's one of the most fascinating, kind of talented, intelligent people I know. And you know, his mind works in ways that other people's don't, including mine, and it's just like, yeah, it's interesting being around him. And like once in a blue moon we'll like have dinner together, or we'll come around the house or whatever, and we always just get buried in conversations about music and about art and all the rest of it, and it's great. And then we go, oh my God, let's do this again soon, and then we both go off on tour. It's quite difficult, I think, for two working musicians to be friends with each other unless they're in the same band. So yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, in principle. Yeah, I'm going to send him a text once we're done with this. I'm not sure that's going to turn into collaboration, but it might turn into dinner if nothing else.
Well, if I can just facilitate a dinner between the two of you,
okay.
This whole thing.
You can take the credit for it.
Thank you very much. So that's sort of more the serious stuff out of the way. Let's get to some real questions.
Okay.
Some real questions.
Right,
okay. So a few years ago, your specialist subject on Mastermind was Iron Maiden.
Yes.
With that in mind, Paul Di'Anno, Bruce Dickinson, Blaze Bayley.
Yeah.
Who wins?
Well, I mean, it kind of has to be Bruce Dickinson, and like the hipster answer is Paul Di'Anno, and well, sorry, forgive me, that's terrible.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, the thing is, I think the
I've
records,
been called worse.
I think that in some ways the records that he sung on were more interesting, but like it's kind of undebatable that like Dickinson sort of is Maiden to a certain degree. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Parish,
yeah, you know, and Di'Anno was, not that I ever saw him because he left the band kind of before I was born, but like, you know, from all reports he was not a patch on Dickinson as a frontman for a live show. Do you know what I mean?
It does seem like a bit of a...
Have you read his autobiography?
I haven't.
It is a strange thing for a man to write an autobiography and come out the other end of it looking like a... Do you know what I mean? That is the moment in life where you get to put it your way. Do you know what I mean? That's your unedited, your story, your version of events, your justification. And he still comes out of it like a bellend.
Well, that's an achievement.
But you know, I mean, I think if I had to choose, I'd probably say Killer's my favourite record. But
that's a good shout. It's a good shout.
And that's what I have the artwork to do. My like it's the first album I ever bought. So
aside from winning Mastermind, what is your proudest achievement?
I mean, that's up there. It's certainly up there. What is my proudest achievement? I mean, this is going to sound like a bit of a dodge, and I promise you that I assure you that it's not. I think the thing is, you know, when I was a kid, I fell in love with rock and roll, and I told my friends I was going to be in a band and we were going to tour and play big shows, and everybody laughed, and my parents were outraged and said, no, you're not doing that. And then, you know, and then I got in a band as a teenager and we played some small gigs, and some people liked it, most of my friends continued to laugh, my parents continued to be outraged. And it's just like, I'm 36 now and I make a full-time living as a musician, and I have done for more than half my adult life. This is my 20th year on tour this year, as of, hold on, November this year, I think, no, August this year will be my 20th anniversary on the road, and I'm proud of that, actually. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter to anyone else in the world. It's not a world historical achievement. Just on a personal level, I'm proud of the fact that I did what I said I was going to do, and I succeeded. So,
drink to that. Drink to that.
He said, slamming the table.
Some motivational words on this one. So again, just going for more of the real questions. A couple of years ago, you released a single with a video starring CM Punk for the next.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you get in contact? And
are you a wrestling guy? Do you know about wrestling?
Yeah. A lot of our content, we talk and.
Okay, cool.
About
well,
wrestling.
in which case you're miles streets ahead of me. I was into WWF when I was a kid, like Ultimate Warrior and Undertaker and that sort of business. But like, not particularly proudly, but I enjoyed it. And I haven't paid attention to wrestling for years, but it started with a guy called Daniel Bryan, started sort of just mentioning me, and then a few other people sort of pointed out that I became aware of the whole sort of independent wrestling circuit and that kind of thing.
It's amazing at the moment.
Yeah, I had no idea that this existed. And I don't really follow wrestling, but I sort of chatted to Daniel a bit on email and stuff like that, and it seemed like a nice guy, and I was trying to get him involved in a music video because that seemed like a cool idea. I think actually it was Ben Morse who came up with the idea. We were chatting to Daniel for a bit, but he had a neck injury at around the time we were trying to figure this video out, so he was like, I can't do this. And then Ben turned around and said, well, there's this guy called CM Punk, and I said, well, okay. So I checked out CM Punk, and turns out CM Punk is good friends with Ryan from a band called Off of the Heads, who is a good friend of mine. So I called, goddamn, Home is one of the best punk albums of the last 20 years. I called Ryan, and Ryan put me in touch with Phil, as he is to his mum. Yes, and Phil was lovely and came down and did the shoot.
Amazing.
So
amazing. Well, so you shook hands, you took your shirt off.
No. I went for a training day.
Oh, really?
There's a guy called Ed Gamister, who's a British wrestler, and he's a sort of physical educator, a personal trainer, that's what I'm trying to say. And he, Ben organised the shoot, and so I went down to like a car park in Croydon or something, to like a warehouse in Croydon, and and had a day of being taught some kind of basic wrestling moves by Ed. Which actually I have to say was a lot harder than the actual shoot, because the thing is, Ed was teaching me how to do wrestling moves to sell to a room full of people around you, whereas when you're shooting on a video, you just get the camera angle right and you can do it 19 times and it's kind of fun. Do you know what I mean? The skill that, and then at no point am I trying to do down professional wrestling incidentally, because I have learned the hard way that it's an extreme set of skills. But yeah, you know, the skill is selling it to a room of people at the same time. But and then, you know, so Ben had sort of choreographed the scene with some help from Punk. I just sort of did what I was told. There were some bits of it that were actually pretty scary. There was a bit where Phil said he was going to do a move called the running knee stroke to the face.
That sounds like it does what it says.
Yeah, and I just was like, we're going to do a what now? But Phil took me through it. It's in the video. Like, I'm in one belt buckle, he runs up and he jumps up on the belt, and it looks like he knees me in the face. He didn't knee me in the face. He sort of like slapped his thigh on my chest, and I sold it, as you do. But it was a scary moment in my life. He was an intimidating guy.
He definitely looks it.
Yeah, he's very nice, but just physically, like, I wouldn't f that guy.
No, me and you both. So I think we'll wrap it up there. So just as a final question, maybe we'll ask everyone, I haven't really thought that far ahead. What's your favourite shark?
What is my favourite shark?
Yeah.
Good question. You see all those statistics about, like there's millions of sharks killed every year and that kind of thing. And a big part of that is just because there's lots of different species of, that's obviously it's terrible, I'm not contesting that. There are lots of different species of shark. Within that though, the thing that I like about a great white is at least it fights back. Do you know what I mean? It kind of resets the tally a little bit, which is good. The other thing is, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been this thing that's come out, apparently Donald Trump hates sharks.
Brilliant.
Like really, really viscerally hates sharks, which makes me like sharks a lot more than I did before.
I love the name of this thing now.
Right, yeah, well, there we go. So yes, but I'll go for the great white just because they fight back.
Awesome. There you have it.
Right, kids.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure, man.
This has been Upside Down Shark Radio. This is Frank Turner. How we pulled this off, I haven't got a clue, but we'll see you next time.